Hello, I'm Jenny Luscombe. I'm a facilitator of healing and a passionate advocate for self-healing. I'm just about to do my show on Holistic Radio, which is always on Wednesdays, 6 till 7 UK time. And it would really help me if you would like and subscribe if you like what you've heard here, and if you would share with somebody that you think it might help. And today's show is going to be all about trust. Hello, this is Jenny Luscombe, and this is Feeling is Healing, and we're on episode 28 now. And today's episode is all about trust. Um, but I'm going to take you on a bit of a ramble. So I'm going to lead up to talking about trust sort of close to the end, because I've realized, like, I've joined loads of dots this week, and I've had such a crazy week of mad like synchronicities. I'll tell you about one of them. But yeah, I've made loads of connections between trust and codependence. So I've talked quite a lot about codependence on the show. So I'll try and do this kind of not too fast as well, because it's takes quite a lot of thinking about. But basically, there's a huge collective frequency going on right now. And I know this because I pay attention to gene keys, which is miraculous. And I'd highly recommend that. If anybody's interested in healing through contemplation, basically you read a few chapters of a book and then your head pops open and then you realize loads of things about yourself, because each one of us has very specific archetypes that we have come into this life to bust wide open. So you can go on the Gene Keys website and you can access a free, it's called a hologenetic profile. So they're not going to steal your data or anything like that, but you do have to put your email address in, and then you put in your time of birth, your place of birth, and basically you then get the information that your soul chose into to come into this life. It's absolutely ridiculous. You read it and then you're like, it's like that show from the 70s. This is your life. And then you just suddenly realize why everything's been so difficult, and you see specifically. Yeah. Can I write that down? Yeah. Yeah, it's the gene keys. So genes, not as in genes that you wear, but genes that are genetic in your body. So the gene keys as in what you unlock the door with. And it's called a hologenetic profile. So G and Q, I don't know where I got that. So it's the gene keys hologenetic profile. Yeah. Is that a website or is it on the gene? No, that's a separate thing from Holistic Radio, but I have talked about it quite a lot because it's amazing, and I love introducing people to that because it changes everything, and it's shifted my life in miraculous ways that I couldn't even begin to tell you, because it basically gives you like there are 64 gene keys, so there's 64 archetypes that humans are working through generally, so we're all working on all of them, but we've chosen into our soul journey, we chose into very specific shadows to suffer from, which then teach us certain things. And then when we transmute and heal the shadow, it moves us into the gift that that shadow has brought. And then when you expand even further and then you transmute that gift, you move into the mastery of that archetype. So let me give you an example. One of my main ones is the mastery of freedom, but I chose into the shadow of victimization to move into the mastery of freedom. And I'm not there yet. Like, these are ongoing journeys, but it's absolutely phenomenal. And there's an amazing community around the Gene Keys. There's like millions of people online. If you've got Gene Key 12, there'll be like loads of people making videos about Gene Key 12. So just listening to somebody talking about Gene Key 12 will fire up your consciousness, and the synchronicities are just off the charts. So I would highly recommend it. But the reason that I'm sort of bringing that up is that they send out a newsletter, which is like a weekly thing. And there's a collective energy in the cosmos where everybody is working on a specific gene key, whether it's one of your specific ones or whether it's just one of the ones that you're not significantly connected to. Everybody is affected at the same time. And it's all connected with astrology, which I don't fully understand. But the collective frequency right now is giving us a total bollocking. And it's everywhere I look, in every client, everything. And it's basically the shadow of codependence, which is also one of mine. So when you transmute the shadow of codependence, it moves you into the gift of sensitivity. And then when you transmute the gift of sensitivity, it moves you into the mastery of sacrifice. But it's not sacrifice as in self-sacrifice. It's sacrifice as in when you basically, your ego stands aside and then you let God in, and then you are just the source. So this is what's happening this week. So I'm going to talk a bit, sort of leading up to talking about trust. I'm going to talk quite a lot about codependence because it's directly connected. And I didn't realize it was until this week, but like loads of things have happened to sort of point me in that direction. So yeah, so ultimately what we're experiencing and starting to see very clearly in all of our lives is how we are dependent in ways that are not healthy for us. And some of these aspects are dependencies that we feel that we need in order to survive. So this is particularly painful. So this is causing us to see that actually the ways that we are depending on other people, on things, on substances like addictions or whatever. So this is showing us how we're actually self-sacrificing by doing that. So codependency is kind of excessive need, which causes you to shut down aspects of yourself. So this is being revealed to many of us in quite painful ways. So realizing where we are doing this in our life can enable us to come back to ourselves, to tune into ourselves as source energy. So at the moment, the majority of us are seeing ourselves as separate from God, like separate from source energy. So, and obviously everybody has different opinions about their higher power, and obviously many opinions are acceptable. In my specific opinion, I think many of us en masse are realizing that there is actually no God outside of us. So codependence on a very, very deep level, if you read the Gene Keys chapter about codependence, it kind of like really popped out at me actually. I was looking at it the other day. And it's basically showing us that, and obviously many of us have been programmed by religion, including me, because I was raised as a Catholic and it was like a very, very difficult thing for me, Catholicism. When we're kind of worshipping a God that has been sort of imposed upon us, we're basically just putting all of our power outside of ourselves, and that is against nature. It just doesn't work for us. I mean, we spend most of our lives doing that. So, for example, when we try to manifest, or when we're praying, when we're asking for guidance, when we're talking to our spirit team, whatever way that we do that, and obviously everyone's different, it's actually ourselves that we're talking to, but it's our own sort of highest evolved aspect of self. So some people see that as our higher self, our future self, our inner child that was kind of untainted before all the shit happened. So we're kind of stuck, in this, please God, can I have blah, 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 because I've got all this horrible crap happening and blah, blah, blah. So we've been stuck in addressing. So we've got this need. So we've got this codependence for someone to rescue and, come and get us out of the muck. Basically, this God outside of us, I believe, is it's an agenda to keep us stuck, like many of the gazillion agendas. So for me, Catholicism was one of the greatest illusions that I've had to face in my life. Um, so I think that in general, we the people en masse, when you put us all together, all added up into unity as a collective force, we are what the creator is. So I think that reality, objective reality, is the sum total of all of our subjective realities put together. And that's all of us. No, nobody left behind. So all of us are a unique flavor of this consciousness that needs to be expressed into the world. Like the world needs us as we are. So we are individual expressions of all that is. But the problem is, because of all of our boatload of pain and trauma, we're all obviously God, but we're stifled and we're blocked and we're limited and we're in struggle. And, you know, if we are kind of in our lives, we're depending on this substance or we're depending on this person, or we're depending on this situation or whatever it is, then we're depending on someone else to create for us. So there's a dark side and a light side to dependence. So this is confusing, so bear with me. And I am going to talk about trust at some point. So if we're depending on others for something that we believe we can't create for ourselves, we are consciously or subconsciously expressing a frequency of lack. And we're expressing that we don't trust our higher power. We don't trust our higher self. We don't trust who we are. So this, whether we're expressing it consciously, whether we're aware of it, whether we're not aware of it, that's affecting what we're bringing into our lives. So we're actually expressing into the world a lack of belief in ourselves as the creator, which isn't helpful. And obviously, this is all okay. Like, it's okay to have a low self-esteem. It's okay to not believe in yourself. We all have to not believe in ourselves in order to believe in ourselves. So we have to have the shadows, the dark, the light, like all of it is source. So it's a bit confusing, the thing about dependence, because obviously there's a light form of dependence as well as a dark form. So it is confusing, but it's confusing because of the brainwashing and because of the program. So this is where trust actually comes in, but I'll get to that later. So the dark side of dependence, which is codependence, is where we're relying on something that is not benefiting us. We think it is, but we're not in the fullness and wholeness of who we are and who we could be because we're relying or depending on something that is hurting us in some way, or it's stifling us or preventing us. So by being in this codependence that we're becoming aware of, we're not caring for our best interests. So caring for our best interests is actually what self-love is. Caring for another's best interests is what love is towards them. So all forms of addiction, we think that it's serving a purpose. We want to eat the cake, we want to smoke the spliff, we want to have the wine or whatever it is. Yeah, okay, all of this has its place, and I'm guilty of all of that. And sometimes, in moderation, everything's fine. Do you know what I mean? Like there are no rules, like we're free. But if we're doing something that is ultimately habitually hurting ourselves, and we think that it's doing us some sort of good, then we are perpetuating an illusion, which is kind of like a self-fulfilling, like doom kind of situation. It's just human, but it isn't ultimately leading us into a better life. So, okay, so moving into independence is a higher frequency than codependence. But independence in itself is also an agenda. So being independent is a step up from being codependent, but it is an illusion and it is limitation and it doesn't work. So I've tried independence, I've tried codependence, I've tried it all, you know. And I still have codependence, you know, don't get me wrong, like I'm moving out of it, but yeah, like it's, I mean, basically, because humans, like, because we are relationally dependent on each other, if we become chronically independent, which is the way that I like to put it, then we are denying ourselves the expansion that we would receive as a result of being interdependent, which is the next step beyond sort of independence. So if you're in independence, like good on you for managing to get out of codependence. But how are you not benefiting from others around you that can care for your best interests? So there are people out there that can love you in ways that you haven't yet thought possible. And you can love them in ways that they haven't yet thought possible. So if you're in independence or chronic independence, then there are needs that you could provide to others that would benefit you as well as them. So this is what interdependence is. So this is, you know, how we can be as of service, as divine resources. So if you're independent and you think that that's your end point, then you're missing out. And you might think that it's sovereignty, and to some degree it is, and it's massive, you know, compared to where the majority of humanity are. But it's not an end point, and you've got so much more potential than that. So it isn't really sovereignty because you miss out on the scaffold of support that an expansive community could bring you. So support that others can provide for you and support that you can bring to them, which ultimately will bring you more joy, more fun, more relaxation, just more healing, just a better quality of life. So, and I am going to talk about trust at some point. So ultimately moving towards interdependence is what works, because this is when everyone in a social system or in a structure is in his or her correct place based off of each person's excellence. And I love this. So this is actually a safe system where, and it's an antidote to codependence. So it's an antidote to unhealthy dependence. It's a safe system that promotes freedom and human potential, where people can rely on one another while maintaining their own autonomy. So this is hard for us to get our heads around because we haven't been programmed for win-win. We've been programmed for competition and, you know, I win, you lose, and all of that. We've been programmed to always see that there's a bad guy. And ultimately, you know, it's all source. You know, we have to see it all as source, which is much more helpful than, you know, blame. But yeah, it's a quantum leap from where we're standing. So I think that the bridge to unity consciousness, which is scaffolded by interdependence, is trust. So I've got a definition of trust here, which is similar to the definition of interdependence. Because when you think about, like, if you just sit now and have a think about trust, and like, if somebody said to you, how would you define trust? Like, just have a think about how would you define that? Like, you know, when I sat and thought about it before I sort of did this research, I was thinking, okay, so trust is when somebody that you're associated with gives you a sense of safety. It feels like they would keep their word, you know, or they would follow up on what they said they were going to do. Like you could rely on that person, you know. So the definition that I've got here just really makes sense to me. So trust. So this is kind of like if you think about trust in another to start with. So a trust in another person. So trust is to be able to rely on someone to benefit from and care for your best interests. So they're not just caring for your best interests, they're benefiting from caring for your best interests. So this is a form of being able to depend on someone that feels secure and safe and healthy. So trust is actually the healthy form of dependence. So I think it's part of the program that we have been led to believe that dependence is bad and we should steer clear of dependence. And also sort of what comes up here is like, you know, we've sort of been programmed to believe that if you use someone as a resource, you know, oh, he's using me or she's using me, or you know, like obviously if someone is taking you for granted and they haven't got permission and they haven't been open and they're just taking, that's very narcissistic. So there's always a light and a dark. So this is about consciously transacting. And it's okay to do that, you know, and actually it's healthy to do that. It's healthy to use each other as a resource as long as that's all out in the open. And as long as you are aware of that resource being used and you're offering it with your conscious free will, and that person is receiving it with their gratitude, with their heart open. You've both got your hearts open. There's no deception. It just is. And it works. And then they're giving you something that you are gratefully receiving, and they're consenting to that. And there's no darkness, there's no abuse. It works. So that's trust in another. So I'm just going to read that again because it's a bit wonky to get your head around because we're so brainwashed. So we need to look at our codependence that's unhealthy. So the way that we're sort of self-sacrificing, which is causing detriment to us, and we might not be aware of it. But if that your codependence buttons are firing away at the moment, which they probably are, then it's being revealed to you how it's not working for you and that there is an alternative option which is lighter and more expansive. So trust in another is to be able to rely on someone to benefit from and care for your best interests. And it is secure and safe and healthy to depend on them in that regard. It benefits you, it benefits them, it's reciprocal. So using somebody as a resource or, you know, taking in a narcissistic way, it's dark when it's hurting someone or when someone's losing, when you lose is happening. So we can sit and think about how this is playing out in our lives, and it will be, you know, with our kids, with our partners, with our boss, you know, whoever it is, with our cat. You know, I get messages from my cat all the time, but that's another show. So I think that sitting and figuring all of this out will be a bit of a quantum leap, and I hope that that happens. So if you ask yourself, how am I being kept stuck? How am I being prevented from being in a fuller expression of my source by something that I'm depending on or by someone that I'm depending on? Because if someone's bailing you out in some way, they are preventing your expansion without realizing, you know. And I talked to a lady today about this, you know, who wanted to save her kids from everything and fight all their battles for them. Ultimately, obviously, you want to do that as a mum, you want to protect your kids. But when they're older and they've got OCD or a drug problem or, you know, something is manifesting in their life because they never got to learn how to do their stuff and like have their own learning, you'll look back and go, why did I do that? You know, it's a very painful journey. And I know lots of people that that's happened to. Okay. I'm a bit tangenty today. So there's a bridge that I'm seeing. So there's a bridge that we can kind of leap through using trust, which can actually move us out of codependence into independence. But I don't think that we can stay in independence, because independence often gives us a vibe of kind of isolation. I can do it all myself. And yeah, we can do a lot ourselves, but ultimately it doesn't work long term, and you'll burn out and you'll miss out. You'll miss out on a lot. So we've done the definition of trust as it applies to trust in another. So just listen to it kind of said in a slightly different way in terms of trust as it applies to trusting yourself. So this is the antidote to codependence, which is the collective frequency right now, and it is the road to your expansion. So trusting yourself, self-trust is to be able to rely on yourself to benefit from and care for your best interests. It's a form of being able to depend on yourself that feels secure and safe. So this is brilliant. Most of people's codependence buttons that are being pushed right now is, but I can't support myself, but I can't support myself, but I can't support myself, but I can't. And then you just chase your tail and you go round and round. But I've never supported myself, or I've got this thing, this reason. I've got all these reasons why I can't support myself. These reasons are all fair enough and they're all valid. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be like this, because you should. You should be like this until you're not. So I would recommend tapping and sitting with the vibe of, I'm scared. I can't support myself. I want to tap into the source that's inside of me that I know that I am intellectually, but I can't. I can't support myself. I need this person. I need this substance. I need this situation. I need. Tune into the sensation of that very specific need in your body. Tap on the center of your chest. Let that chronic need be there. Don't try and change it. Don't try and fix it. Don't try and control it. It's okay for it to be there. Just let it be there. Let it be there in all of the mess and the shit of it. And just keep saying to yourself, but I can't support myself. I can't imagine supporting myself. I can't imagine being my own source. But I do believe in source outside of me. But I can't believe in myself as source. Just sit with the sensation. So it might be in your stomach. It might feel like pain. It might feel like something moving, like a whirlwind or an earthquake. It might feel just like a heaviness or a dread, or it might feel like emotions like frustration. Whatever that is for you, there's no right or wrong. Sit with it for as long as you can and just watch it. Get your popcorn out, watch it like a film. Because if you're watching it like a film, you're receiving it, which is the energy that you need to be in. You need to be in curiosity. And it's literally as simple as that. There's nothing else to do apart from witness yourself. And then the longer that you can stay in that, the more you will be pulling out the plug of this dependency in an unhealthy way and moving into a frequency where you can attract people who will be the exact people that you can interdepend with in a consenting way, in a way that benefits you both and leads you towards expansion and good change instead of stuckness. So that's what I would recommend. So this is scary. It is. It just is. Especially if you depend on something or someone else for survival. So this is the shift with capital letters and bells on. So this is, right, I'm going to tell you in a minute about this amazing synchronicity I had. So this is a transfer of power from seeking externally, please God, can I have, like seeing that the power is something that you don't have outside of you. All the answers are outside of you. They're not, they're actually inside of you. So this is about a transfer of power from seeking externally to internal power, the realization of internal power, to relying and depending internally on yourself, which is going to get you a lot more independent. So you don't have to know how that's going to come about. You don't, you will be in your head going, what? Like, how is this even possible? I've been like this my whole life. How am I suddenly going to have money to do this? Or how am I suddenly going to get over this health problem that limits me? Or whatever the thing is. When you shift your power from the external to the internal, and I'm going to teach you a little exercise in a minute, which I find amazing. And it's not, I can't take credit for it. It's a woman who is a quantum healer called Tamra Oviatt, who I follow. Like, she's a phenomenal lady, very down to earth as well. I'll teach you in a minute how to do this. So I think I'll tell you about my synchronicity first before we do the exercise. So I was like thinking about this show the other day, and I was at Manchester Victoria Station, and I was just on a journey somewhere, and I was on platform 3, and I was thinking, oh my God, my head was popping open. I was waiting for the train. It was freezing cold. There wasn't many people around. I kind of like went up some stairs leading across to the other platform where there was like a patch of sunshine. I was like a cat sitting in the window. Do you know what I mean? Like finding the nice hot bit to sit in and like get comfort. So I was kind of like in this beam of light. It's making me laugh to think about it. I was in this beam of light from the sun, and I was freezing cold, and I was having all these epiphanies, and I was thinking, oh my God, this is the shift. And I was thinking, this is a transfer of power from seeking externally to relying and depending internally. And then afterwards, my train was coming, and I went down the stairs, and then I'm not joking, there were two signs. There were two signs up on the platform, and I don't know what they were referring to at all, but it said power changeover. And there were two of them. So I saw it and I laughed my head off. I was like, wow, like there's a power changeover sign in front of me just as I'm realizing that I'm having a big shift of my life and like a realization. And then when I was getting on the train started moving, and then I saw a different sign but saying the same thing. So I don't even know what that was to do with or who the sign was for, but it said power changeover. I was like, oh my God, it's a new news flash from the universe. So the exercise that I think can help with this is actually really simple. So just do this exercise with me now and then kind of keep it in your head and keep going back to it because you might not get it at first. So keep doing it and keep sort of sitting with it, and then you'll come to understand it more and more. So I want you to imagine, so you can tap while you do this as well, because the tapping brings down any cortisol that you've got in your system. So imagine that you've got the earth. So the earth is a power source. It's like a powerhouse. It doesn't get much better than the earth. So imagine that you're tuning in kind of through your root, all the way through your feet down into the center of the earth, all the way into Mother Earth's like heart chakra, into the vortex of energy that the earth is. And think about the power of the earth. So think about the massive diversity of species of birds and mammals and reptiles, and like just think of the creative power that is on the earth. Just think of what the earth creates, like in terms of plant life and rocks and minerals and like crystals, and just like, earth energy, like lava coming up from the surface, like erupting volcanoes. Like think of the power of the sea. I mean, it's phenomenal. So think about the power in Mother Earth. So just connect with that. So just see that powerhouse of Mother Earth. And then just kind of keep your awareness that imagine that you're kind of sucking that up, and that Mother Earth is like magnetizing you down into, keeping you on the earth, keeping you connected to that specific power. And then take your attention all the way up. So just imagine taking your attention up to the sky, and you're going through all the layers of the universe. You're going through kind of like sparkly white light and kind of jelly kind of like substances, and you're kind of going into like different dimensions, and then you're there, you're at prime creator. So just think about the source of all that is. This is, we are not just the only universe. Like, there are multiverses, there are all these like extraterrestrial beings that we don't know anything about. Just think about the power of prime creator that we are a part of. So we are a part of the powerhouse of prime creator. So you've got the power of Mother Earth, you've got the power of prime creator. So just imagine that you're connected to that, and imagine that there is a perfect channel between your connection to prime creator and your connection with Mother Earth. So imagine that you are a clear channel that is connecting those two energies. So like, imagine you're completing that circuit. And then I'm also going to bring in the sun. Now, the sun, think about the sun, like, the way that the sun just shines, and then everyone's happy. Everyone comes out of their gloom and doom, and everyone shifts like in 20 seconds. It's like, oh, suddenly everything's better. You feel entirely different to how you felt 20 seconds ago when the sun comes out. So the sun is enabling like all of this growth. It's enabling all the survival of all these species, all these different ecosystems. So bring the power of the sun into this connection that you have with prime creator and the earth. So just keep switching between them. So this is an amazing energy to create from. So if you want to manifest something, or if you want to shift something like a pattern or something that you've become kind of, aware of, just bring in the source of all that is, the source of the earth and the source of the sun. So bring all of that in. Now, what I want you to do now, because we've been talking about these three power sources as if they are outside of you. I now want you to switch your consciousness. Imagine you flip a switch in your head, and now I want you to see them as you. It's you. So see that source of all that is you. And the power of the sun is you. You are that. You are the source of the earth. You are the earth. You actually are. So if we talk about believing in oneness, we're all one, we're all connected, which we are, and we can intellectualize that. Like, what we're being called to do right now is to be it, to realize it and to just be it. So I would recommend keep doing this meditation and then consciously shift from seeing the creator, the source of all that is, God, being outside of you, to actually, you are that. You are a part of that. You are. And you are the sun, the creation of the sun. So imagine if you can harness this within your being, imagine what you can create. Like, what can't you create? Put it that way. So switch between them, these three sources, and then see yourself as that. You are the earth, you are the sun, you are the creator. So this meditation is by a lady called Tamra Oviatt. So I always like to reference people if I talk about their stuff. So Tamra, Tamra Oviatt, Oviatt. She's an American lady, and she's had traumas, and like, she talks about having no money, and she's an amazing lady. So yeah, when you're asking for guidance, when you're trying to manifest, just see that you're asking yourself, and you are the power source. So you can see that as your future self, your untainted inner child, your higher self, your non-physical self, your soul aspect that can see it all, that has a more elevated perspective than your 3D self. So, and I'm not saying, don't enlist and harness the support of your spirit teams and the galactics, if you're into the Arcturians or Pleiadians or whatever. Like, they're all around us. Like, the galactic support is on steroids right now, and the angels and like everything. but they are you. So don't see them as external. Like when they come through people and people are channeling them, they're always very clear, we are your equals. They're never superior. They are us. That's why we're on an equal level with them, because they are us. So if they're helping us, it's because they are a multi-dimensional reflection of us. So this is the shift that we have to make to get out of codependence. So if you do that meditation every day, you will be on fire in a good way. So yeah, I'm going to post on the channel a couple of things after the show. But basically, I want you to start to see yourself like Wonder Woman. So I grew up on watching Wonder Woman, and I really like Marvel characters and, you know, Buffy the Vampire Slayer and all of that. So, like, if we're on the path at this time in history, like, we are the ones, we are the strongest of the strong, we are powerful beyond measure. We can have it all because we are it all. So, yay! Woo, come on. Oh, yeah. So just step into it and see what it feels like. And you don't have to stay there. You know, it's kind of like, you know, some people might be scared by it, or, you know, all your shit will come up, like all the unworthiness and, oh, you know, but I don't feel confident, or, you know, whatever it is. But it's, yeah, it's just, it's all happening, and trust in yourself. So starting to see your dependencies, and then how you can find healthy ones instead of unhealthy ones, and like just do a switch. And you don't have to know how to get there. Like, we don't have to know the way. Like, we just don't know the way. And if we can start to get excited about not knowing the way, and to just be open to miracles, and kind of like suddenly knowing the way, not knowing the way, but then 5 minutes later suddenly knowing the way, then we're just unlimited. We're unlimited beings. Woohoo! Was that you, Carly, doing the cheer then? Indeed. Thank you. Thank you. Oh yeah. Woohoo! Yeah, I think I'll finish there, and then yeah. So does anybody want to pitch in? Thank you, Carly, for your whoop whoop. I've got the music to Wonder Woman in my head now. I think I might post it on the channel later. Hmm. But I've even finished early as well. So if anybody wants to come in and share, or um, ask anything, then go for it.
Hey Jenny.
Hi, is that you, Jackie?
It is, yeah. I was tapping along with you there, and I have to say that was amazing.
Oh,
I didn't realise that. Yeah, I didn't realise I was slouching while I was listening to you, and I just ended up sitting up right.
There's something about that meditation. Like, I've been doing that meditation for years, right? Like for something like 3 or 4 years. And it's only dawned on me what she's getting at. You know, sometimes you sort of know something, but then you know it on another level, and then you know it on a deeper level. And I've suddenly got what her intention was. It was like she was trying to switch our focus from seeing it as an external thing that you don't have, like there's this lack within myself and all the power is out there, you know, but seeing yourself as it. I was like, oh, oh. So yeah,
sometimes it takes a while.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does.
It was amazing. I think I will definitely be bringing that to a daily practice.
Yeah, I think it's one.
You get where you are.
Well, you know, like when I do this show, like you don't see the kind of icky bits of my life, but yeah.
We'll be Wonder Woman.
I'm going to find that because there's some particularly funny clips that I looked at recently that just make me laugh. Wonder Woman with all her bra and knickers or whatever it is that she wears, and then bending people's guns in half and stuff like that. I'm just like, oh my God. I remember watching that when I was a kid, and we'd all kind of act it out, and we'd deflect bullets with our like things on our wrists, like we'd put things on our wrists and pretend we were deflecting bullets. And yeah, like those were the days. Anybody else want to have a chat or ask anything? Have you, is your show on today, Jackie? I never know whether it's your week or not.
No, it's on next week.
Oh, next week, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I'll just quickly jump in. Thank you very much, Jenny. One of the things that will pop to mind, especially when you said that the show was about trust,
Yeah.
and when you were talking about it in various ways, one of the things that I've used over the years for me, not just the item on its own that does everything. It's one of those pokers in the fire that you sort of condition yourself or train your mind to work around. And the phrase is, trust no one, especially yourself, because of all the billions of people that currently exist in the world. It's you that will get you into trouble more than anybody else.
That's so true.
It's a bit of tongue in cheek, it's a little bit of kidology, but there is a sound sort of method behind it. And
yeah, no, it makes sense. Yeah.
And it's part of that balance of the inner you as well. You've got to balance it with the other thing that goes with that is, like you've just been saying about the inner, you've got to look inside. If you can find all your balance, harmony, like I said, the good bits and the bad bits, because it's the bad bits that need the work. The good bits don't need the work, because the good bits are always going to be the good bits.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah.
balance of, focus on raising the poor points, the bad points, the ugly points, whatever aspects of your inner personality, your inner you, your inner energy, your inner force, or whatever they are, and use these tools to train your mind. And like you were explaining earlier about the mum, and not bothering or wanting to fight every fight, and it's like, yeah, you're not bothering to let your children be independent. And it's a fine line, it's a balance.
Yeah, it is. I love what you said there, Andy, because like most of my clients and myself, when you look at people's healing journeys and what they're up against, it obviously people have, not there are difficult relationships, people are narcissistic and people suffer at the hands of other people, but like the program that has taken us away from ourselves in millions of different ways has made us extremely self-abusive, and like we cannot always see it. So a lot of people on the healing path are realizing that they're their own worst enemies, and that actually it is themselves that is putting pressure on themselves. It's us telling ourselves that we're unworthy, or it's us telling ourselves that we're stupid, or whatever it is. So yeah, like your kidology, I think, is very wise. It makes sense to me.
Brilliant. Right, well, I'll shut up and let somebody else have a go. Why not? Is there anyone else? I know Jackie's just been on, and I heard Carly. We've got Anita on as well. I think, has everybody had their bit now? Just said their thing.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, I'm happy to stop now, and
yeah. Right. Do you want a few final words just to wrap it up?
I will. I'm not going to sort of go back into everything in detail, but I'll post on the channel. I'm going to post a little bit of Wonder Woman because why not? And it just makes sense. And I might see if I can find a link to Tamra because she's brilliant. And I'll also post the definition of trust as well, because it takes a few times listening to that through, because the program, the brainwashing and everything has made it a bit difficult for us to grasp at first, but it does make sense, when you read it through a few times. So I'll post that in a separate post on its own, and then people can save it if they want to.
I'm just going to say, I put that Gene Keys
Oh my God,
I know you were talking to Anita about that earlier on.
it's absolutely mind-boggling. Oh my God. Anyone would think that.
Not one here. I think you talked about it in a previous show.
Yeah, I did.
At the time, I remember putting up gene keys.
Yeah.
So I've put it up again. If anybody wants to download it, the free PDF file is there.
Yeah. 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 I mean,
any others that you recommend? I'll go and find them.
If you can find the link to the free hologenetic profile, I think if you just put into Google or whatever, gene keys, free profile, it'll pop up. And it's just a very simple thing. But the Gene Keys itself is a book with all the 64 chapters for each archetype, for each gene key. But you don't read the book cover to cover, like from start to finish. You dip into it in the way that you see fit. So it's like healing through contemplation. So once you get your hologenetic profile back and you have a look at it, it actually looks very intense and complicated because there are so many levels to it, and people study it like it's a thing that you could study for the rest of your life. Like it's not a course that you end. Do you know what I mean? It's just like a blossoming flower that just keeps giving and giving. Like the things that I've realized about myself since I've been studying that is absolutely phenomenal. And Richard Rudd, the guy who innovated the gene key, and it's not, you can't even say innovated, he received it from the universe. I mean, when you actually look at the complexity of it and the magic of it, it just, I don't know how that happened. But he's got a really interesting story because he's just a random Joe, like he doesn't see himself as like gifted or above anybody else. Like he doesn't even see himself as particularly traumatized. Like he sees himself as quite a privileged person. Like when he was a young person, he had money, he could travel, so he traveled the world and he was kind of nomadic. And he had this crazy experience on top of one of the pyramids in Mexico. I think he had this like massive divine download, and he received the gene keys, and it's connected to the I Ching. So it is connected up to like lots of other modalities that make sense in different cultures, and it's combined with astrology. Um, but it's just mind blowing. It's so detailed. It's just amazing. And it's a map. It's basically a map to your life. And anyone can go and access that for free. And I love showing people, okay, you can get this Gene Keys profile. And I just love watching their face when they first look at what their shadows are and what their gifts are and what their masteries are. That they're, it's
I'll put the link on the group so if people want to find it.
Yeah, 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 it's really, really good. So anyway, I'll stop banging on about it now. And but yeah, and I said I was going to be more organized and decide what I was going to do the following week. But yeah, I don't yet know what I'm going to do next week, so we'll have to see. The universe will provide something. But yeah, I'll finish there. But thanks everybody for coming on the live, and thanks everybody for listening on the replay. And I'll see you next week.
Right, I've stopped the recording.
Thanks, Andy.
No problem. Thank you, Jenny. Yeah, absolutely great.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, I'm
just joined just near the end. And did you pick up on what Jenny's been talking about, Marva?
Not really, but I'll look at the recording. But
yeah.
I had to cut the ending because it will let me look at the recording. And it sounds interesting, the gene key. There's always something new.
Yeah.
And I don't know about that, so thank you.
Hi, Marva. Have you just started to do a show?
Yeah, this is my second show.
Yay, brilliant. Well done. How are you finding it?
I'm finding it okay because I'm just letting people be themselves, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm being myself.
Yeah.
Go with the flow.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. Oh, I love doing the show. It's helped me so much, like find my voice. It really has. And
yeah, and it's like you say you can't really think of next week. I think when you're in that mind space of just wanting the universe to talk through you, to move through you, then you can't think of what you're going to do next.
Yeah.
The next minute it just all comes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I try to plan. I try to get better at planning, but it doesn't work.
I've got a script. I always got outside the script, and then I'm all over the place because I'm trying to read it. And so my best bet is just have a couple bullet points.
Yeah.
And then because I've done like workshops and stuff like that before.
Yeah.
Just a couple bullet points, and then just go with the flow with everything else.
Yeah.
But somehow it always seems to tie in. I don't know.
Yeah.
It always seems to tie in like magic.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? You go into a sort of vortex. Time is not normal, is it, when you're doing something like this? I'm finding time generally a bit crazy anyway at the moment.
Yeah.
And it seems like when you have a busy day and you have a lot to do, it feels like you have more spare time than when you're just hanging around and like just having a sleepy Sunday and just having some tea. And those days, like time doesn't feel right at all. It's really weird, odd.
That's so true. That's so true. But even on a Sunday, and I'm in bed, I love to go sauna and places like that and just switch off.
Yeah.
So that's me. That's how I love myself.
Yeah, yeah. I like going walking in the country and just finding trees and the river, and I just love paying attention to the sky and the birds. Like that's where I just feel at peace.
Well, I'm an earth sign, so I do feel peace in those places as well. Very much so.
Yeah.
I'm a Taurus.
Yeah, I'm Gemini. I don't know much about astrology, but somebody did my chart once and she said that I have no earth in my chart at all. And I was like, oh my God, like that definitely rings a bell. So I do have to really focus on being grounded. It feels like I could just float away sometimes. A friend of mine thinks I'm going to go invisible at some point. Yeah. I don't think I'd like to be invisible, but I'd like to try it and then come back again, But
I'm sure there's something that I've read in the past about becoming invisible. I'm gonna look into that now.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Jenny, I definitely think you've got the ability to actually be doing it and have been doing it already.
What, going invisible? Maybe I have. But it's funny because like if I'm in a city centre, like if I'm in Liverpool, if I'm in Manchester, which I do go to sort of quite regularly, I sometimes feel people could just walk straight through me. It feels like people can't see me sometimes, so I do wonder. It's odd, but
Do you ever get that when you're walking along the footpath, like on a street that's busy, that nobody seems to see it, and if you don't move, they would bump into you constantly.
Yeah,
I get that all the time. I'm the one that has to move and navigate around all these people that don't seem to see me.
Yeah.
I don't move, and I've tried it. I've experimented with it, and not moved. I've just kept walking in my direction, and they bump into you. And it's like, can you not see me?
Yeah.
I think this is something to do with frequency. I was quite young.